we would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land on which the university stands. We respectfully recognise elders past and present.
Welcome to Newsline, live from the RMIT studios.
Hello and welcome to Newsline. I'm Will Pasqua.
And I'm Sandra Thompson.
Today, we'll be looking at rising fare evasion on Melbourne's public buses, a podcast about Indigenous designers and artists who are boycotting Spotify.
We'll also be looking at funding for mental health services in Melbourne's West. But first, today's news.
The bill to establish a treaty between the Victorian State Government and First Nations peoples was passed in the Victorian Legislative Assembly yesterday afternoon. The bill is expected to be debated in the Legislative Council in just under 2 weeks. Alongside a formalised treaty agreement, the bill establishes the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria as a permanent body with the power to consult government on issues affecting Indigenous Victorians. The Victorian Liberals have said that they would scrap the bill if they were voted into power in the upcoming state election. Really interesting to see how that develops in the coming months. Just under 2 weeks when we expect to see that bill debated. Sandra, do you want to tell us about a story that you and I did together a little earlier this year? What did we look at?
We looked at the mixed martial arts and we did a podcast.
We did. And we looked at the intersection between mixed martial arts and the far right. That podcast is up on Spotify with the Swanson Explainer. We're now going to turn to public holidays, a great topic of debate and conversation here in Melbourne. Because the AFL Grand Final, it's one of Australia's biggest sporting events. This year, international students joined in to see what the excitement is all about. Sandra Thompson reports.
For many fans, AFL is part of everyday life and something uniquely Australian that brings people together.
In Australia, in Melbourne especially, AFL is extremely big.
It's a sport that Australia has to call their own.
In the state of Victoria, the day before the Grand Final is a public holiday. The AFL Grand Final follows a 23-match season that runs from March to September each year. And fans love that it comes with a day off work.
I think it's fantastic, you know, you can obviously, the day before you don't have to work, you can sort of relax.
An excuse to sleep in. Exactly, excuse for a day off.
AFL is a source of personal passion and love for sports.
Magpie supporters.
The game is I'm very passionate about.
I just love the sport. I think it's a good sport. It's a unique sport.
I'm standing outside the Melbourne Cricket Ground where thousands of people have gathered to watch the AFL Grand Final. For many Australians, it's more than just a game. It's a part of the culture. But how do international students make of this tradition? Scape La Trobe is a student accommodation in Melbourne CBD. Students from around the world gathered there to watch the Grand Final.
It's really important for international students to kind of get to know Australia and what's important to our country. By running this event, they can watch the footy and see like what it's all about.
But AFL is an unfamiliar sport, and the idea of a public holiday for a sports event can also be surprising for international students.
I think it's pretty awesome because it shows how passionate that the whole country is about this one sporting event.
The day the holiday is not on the day the game is, so it doesn't make sense for me.
I think having a public holiday is good. You get to go out with your mates, enjoy it.
While AFL is undeniably Australian, some students feel included thanks to friends or local gardens, while others struggle with the rules and traditions.
I had a friend from Perth who brought us to a game, and also I have a really close friend who's from New Zealand who is also really big into AFL. And because of them, like they explain all the rules to us, they bring us to the games.
I think it's hard to be included because of all the rules you don't understand.
For many Australians, The AFL Grand Final is a tradition and passion, and for some international students it's a window into Australian culture, a way to understand our differences and what unites us. Sandra Thompson, RMIT Newsline.
That was Sandra Thompson reporting for us there. Now, earlier this year, on the 25th of August, thousands of demonstrators gathered in front of Indonesia's parliament to protest housing allowances for MPs. The demonstrations quickly spread to other parts of the country. At least 10 people died in the protests. Joining us now is Tito Ambio. Tito is an Indonesian-Australian journalist, writer, producer and researcher at RMIT University who's been looking into the protest movements. Welcome to the desk, Tito.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
What's the current situation in Indonesia and what do you think we can expect to happen next?
Well, the situation is not dire, but I think a lot of people, when we're talking about Indonesia, we can't talk about what happened in August without talking about what happened in 1998. Right, so 1998, there was a lot of political conflicts, violence, people died, and I think if you look at what's happening now, I think you need to understand that people are scared about what could happen now if we think about what happened in 1998. And this is relevant because Prabowo, the president, was involved with the violence in 1998 because he was a former military officer in 1998, and now he's the president. So people are looking at, okay, what's going on now? Activists had been imprisoned, I think close to 950 people were imprisoned, some of them without real reasons, and we don't know why they're imprisoned. So I think a lot of people are still a little bit scared about, okay, what does this mean for democracy in Indonesia?
So the one-piece flag became a prominent symbol of not only the Indonesian protests, but other protests all around the world. Could you explain the symbolism behind this flag?
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting thing that had just happened with the one-piece flag. Because, if you don't know the one-piece flag, it's from a Japanese anime, right? And the character of the Japanese anime is this guy, what's his name? Luffy, I think, who is, this guy who's fighting against corruption, fighting against evil governments. And what happened with that flag was a bunch of truck drivers in Jakarta basically decided, we want to protest against the government, but we want to do it in a way where it's kind of fun. So a bunch of truck drivers just basically put this flag, this anime flag behind on their truck. And then it was picked up by a lot of people in Indonesia, but then it's used in Madagascar, it's used in France, it's used in Nepal, it's used in the Philippines. So I think it's an example of how something that's popular culture can be used as a way to inspire people to see what they need to do to change the world.
Just quickly, before we let you go, the Indonesian President Prabowo, who you mentioned before, he was recently heard asking President Trump of the US for a meeting with Trump's sons, Eric or Don. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's an interesting case because I think what happened was we have this official meeting between Trump and the other world leaders, and Prabowo was captured on a hot mic asking whether he could meet with Don or Eric. And I think what's the question here is that business talk? Because that's just not on if there was business, right? If they were trying to do business deals when it's like a state event like that.
Tito, thank you so much for taking the time to explain all of that for us today. Well, with health prices on the rise, many Melburnians are feeling the financial strain. Our reporter Maya El-Baya hit the streets of the city to find out how housing affordability is affecting Melburnians.
Melbourne's median house prices is now close to $1 million, while rent has increased nearly 10% over the past year, with $585 a week. We hit the streets to find out how Melbourne are coping with this housing affordability crisis. How has rent or housing costs affected you personally?
I definitely think it would be a struggle because I only work part-time, so I don't really earn much.
Maybe more than half of my wage will go to the rent.
I'm living right now in a house, well, not a house, it's kind of apartment with another 7 people, so kind of hard.
Do you think young people in Melbourne will ever be able to afford a home?
I don't think it's going to be very easy.
Depending about their major, what kind of job they will get in.
It's quite stark, the future. I don't know what new laws or helps will bring for young people.
Evictions are becoming more common because of rising rents. Do you know how much evictions they send out weekly?
Really can't guess. I don't have any idea about it. Yeah.
The answer is 2,000 evictions.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot.
I thought hundreds, and I was thinking maybe 100 is too much.
The answer is 2,000 evictions weekly.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Like 10?
2,000 evictions.
Weekly, 2,000. That's pretty shocking.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more news shortly. Welcome back to Newsline. I'm Sandra Thompson. A local council in Melbourne has backtracked on proposals to alter rules about dogs on beaches. Will Pascoe has the story.
Ricketts Point Marine Sanctuary is a sensitive marine habitat frequented by birds and dogs alike. In parts of the sanctuary, dogs are allowed on the beach provided they are on a leash. Earlier this year, the Bayside City Council proposed alterations to these rules. Under the new plan, dogs would be prohibited from beaches in southern parts of the sanctuary throughout summer. On beaches to the north, regulations would be relaxed. At a council meeting in August, the rule changes were abandoned, much to the delight of assembled onlookers.
And it is carried. Thank you.
Local environment and wildlife advocacy groups say the council's decision is a letdown.
For us, that was quite disappointing. There were some elements of the draft proposal which would have been great, because they were actually saying in summer there should be no dogs on beaches further down from here.
Supporters of the proposed changes are concerned about the disruptive behaviour of dogs on beaches and their impacts on bird life. Migratory bird species use the rocks behind me to rest and recuperate before continuing their travels, attracting many bird watchers to the local area. Environmental groups say that this is an untapped resource.
But I think it's a lost opportunity that we're not taking advantage of the fact we've got migratory seabirds coming here that can actually generate income for the local economy.
Despite the disappointing outcome, advocates are pleased with the council's commitment to improving signage.
And we're really pleased about the signs, and we're hoping to have some input into how those signs can be written so they're educational. And because we think that's a big thing. A lot of people who are causing problems with wildlife don't want to and don't know they're doing so. And we'd like some more education so that those people can make informed decisions.
They're hopeful the new signage will benefit humans, dogs and wildlife in the sanctuary. William Pasqua, Newsline.
Thousands of Victorians are set to lose access to bulk billing doctors after community health provider CoHealth announced it will close GP services at 3 of its clinics in Melbourne's inner north. For more, we're joined by our live reporter, Rani Fletcher.
Rani,
tell us more about what these closures involve.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So CoHealth are a community non-profit health organisation. Now, they provide tailored services. Often these are provided to people that have complex mental health and health issues along with social issues. So these are tailored services for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health, along with drug and alcohol and domestic violence. So there's a real variety of services being provided. Now, it was announced yesterday that there's been a closure of 3 clinics around Melbourne, one in Fitzroy, one in Kensington, and one in Collingwood. Now, it's been reported that this has been the closure is the result of lack of funding and challenges with funding. So there's a real variety in response from community. People are very upset.
So what does this mean for the community?
Yeah, so it's expected to affect 12,500 Victorians, and a lot of these people will have to find new GPs. Now, there's concerns because this is a bulk billing service, and a lot of these services are provided free of charge. There are concerns that people are unable to afford the fees that would be associated with privately billed services. So the concerns are that people will be left without healthcare. Now, on top of that, it's expected about 30 doctors and counsellors will be made redundant across the 3 clinics. I actually spent some time this morning outside the Fitzroy clinic speaking to people coming out of it, and the general sentiment shared among people leaving the clinic was disappointment and frustration. People feel that they've been left behind. They feel like there's no alternative, and they're worried they won't have access to healthcare. There was also kind of a bit of concern among some people I spoke to about an increase in people going to emergency departments for treatment because they can't access anything else. So we'll hear from some people now who I spoke to outside the Fitzroy clinic.
And it's just quite devastating, and it's also quite disgusting. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to go from here.
There's no alternative. There always have to be a cover for the low-income people.
The closure of free health services is always going to have a huge impact and flow-on effects in terms of the rest of people's lives, because, I mean, health relates to education, employment.
There's going to be, depending on what numbers you use, there's going to be between 6,000 and 10,000 to 12,000 people that are going to be looking for a new doctor. So they don't have the money to be able to find and locate a new GP.
Now, the person we just heard from then, he's a staff member working at the Fitzroy Clinic, and he was explaining how the funding model works. And he said it's completely reliant on money that comes through Medicare, which is just simply not enough for the services that they're providing. Now, he says that is built to support a system which sees people in short succession, but due to the complexity of the health and social issues people are presenting with, it's just not going to work. So understandably, there's a lot of concern among people. Might I just add, the Fitzroy Clinic is right opposite our series of public housing blocks, and a lot of the people in these blocks are using the services that that clinic is providing. So there's concerns about the consequences of that on mental health, physical health, and the well-being of a lot of Victorians. So understandably, there's much concern among people in Melbourne. That's all from me. Back to you, Will and Sandra.
Thanks, Rani. That was our reporter, Rani Fletcher, there. We're heading to a short break now. We'll be back with more news afterwards. Welcome back to Newsline. I'm Will Pasqua. The local punk scene in Melbourne is grappling with growing calls to boycott the streaming platform Spotify. The call to boycott Spotify comes as the Danish streaming giant has invested in the arms industry. Izzy Lewis has this report.
Suddenly, streaming music is now financially entangled with military surveillance. And for Melbourne's local punk scene, it's a moral rupture.
Artists have found themselves in a situation where, they're basically being robbed. Firstly, to not get paid anything, or just to get, absolute pennies from per stream, has not only affected the industry, but then to find out that that money that they are taking is being invested in, war.
Melbourne's punk scene, which is built on community and resistance, is now rethinking how they release and promote their work.
We're used to getting sent links to artists, Instagram, Spotify's, and even in the last week, I would say I've received more Bandcamp links.
From rehearsal rooms, venue offices, and late-night chats between bands, the ethics of streaming aren't just theoretical anymore. They're shaping choices, shifting loyalties, and forcing artists to rethink how they connect with listeners. And in a scene built on community, that connection is important.
It's something that everyone's talking about. I think we're asking our friends, have you left Spotify yet?
For many artists, the Helsing investment isn't a standalone scandal. It's the latest chapter in a long story of exploitation. From fractions of a cent per stream to opaque algorithms, Spotify's model has left musicians underpaid and undervalued.
A band that can sell out the Tote is lucky to make $800 a quarter in streams.
I feel like everyone knows that they want to support artists directly, and going to shows and buying merch and vinyl is like the best way to do that.
And while the headlines focus on tech and geopolitics, the impact lands here, in the lives of artists trying to make it work. Izzy Lewis, RMIT News.
Over to sport now with our reporter Emma Sampson.
The world's richest race has got Melbourne jockeys and trainers gearing up for Sydney's $20 million sprint. The Everest, due to take place this Saturday, will see some of the biggest names of racing face off in Randwick. But all eyes will be on Hong Kong's superstar and Everest favourite Ka Ying Rising. Known by some as the Usain Bolt of equine, the horse has touched down in Australia to massive fanfare. Champion trainer Chris Waller is set to unleash the three-pronged attack with Angel Capital, Lady Shenandoah and Jolly Star, who will be ridden by James McDonald. McDonald is the only jockey ever to inflict defeat on Ka Ying Rising. He says he's confident Jolly Star has what it takes to shake things up.
Let's hope Australia or our horses can beat Ka Ying Rising because he's a superstar.
Got a good turn of foot, she's got a phenomenal will to win, so she's ready to rock and roll.
The Ashes are back in Australia for another series of hotly disputed test matches. The Australian men's cricket team has touched down in Perth and is gearing up for the opening test, which gets underway this Sunday. Australia will be looking to continue their dominance on home soil, while England arrives with point to prove after a tough summer. The Perth conditions are expected to suit the fast bowlers, setting the stage for a classic start to the series. In women's cricket now, captain Alyssa Healy is in red-hot form. The skipper blasted her second consecutive century, leading Australia to victory against Bangladesh and securing a spot in the World Cup semi-finals. Healy's back-to-back tons have cemented her as one of the most dangerous batters in the tournament, putting the Aussies firmly on track for another title challenge. Now to some international sports news. Israeli football fans have been banned from attending an upcoming Europa League match in the United Kingdom. UEFA has confirmed that supporters of Maccabi Tel Aviv will not be allowed to travel for next month's clash against Aston Villa in Birmingham. The decision comes amid security concerns and heightened tensions following the war in Gaza. A petition had circulated in the UK calling for the match to be postponed or moved, citing safety risks and community pressures. UEFA says the game will go ahead as planned, but only Aston Villa fans will be permitted inside the stadium. The Israeli club has expressed disappointment, saying it reflects the decision but hopes to see normal travel resume for future matches. That's all for sport. Back to you, Will and Sandra.
Thanks, Emma, for that reporting on sports. And I just wanted to raise attention to the Australian women's cricket team, in particular Alyssa Healy, which, Emma, you mentioned a little bit there. She is on a red-hot tear, 113 not out in that back-to-back century she scored there, contributing to a 202 unbeaten run partnership with partner Phoebe Litchfield. Now let's not forget the bowlers here. Spinner, Alana King, 2 for 18 in her 10 overs. She was named player of the match in that match there for her efforts. Sandra, I know you're from Denmark. Have you gotten to see a game of cricket yet at all?
I need to be honest, I have not. But I feel like I need to, because now I'm in Australia, I have to be a part of the cultural and the traditions here.
Absolutely.
But what about you, Will?
Oh, not as of yet, not this summer, but I'm really looking forward to it. Let's go to Emma now with Mia Coutinho.
Thanks, Will. Today in Melbourne, there was mostly cloudy conditions with a minimum temperature of 13, reaching a maximum of 20. Looking to the capital cities for tomorrow's forecast, Adelaide set to be sunny with a top of 27 and a low of 11. Brisbane, mostly sunny morning, reaching a top of 32 degrees and a minimum of 17. Medium chance of showers in the afternoon with damaging winds and a possible severe storm developing in the evening. Canberra, partly cloudy, a maximum of 25 and a low of 7. Darwin, hot and partly cloudy with a 30% chance of rain, reaching a top of 36 degrees there and a low of 27. Tomorrow in Melbourne, partly cloudy with a slight chance of morning showers, a maximum of 20 and a minimum of 10. Perth, cloudy with a 50% chance of rain, most likely in the morning. Expect a warm top of 22 and a low of 16. Sydney, mostly cloudy tomorrow, slight chance of early morning showers, reaching a maximum of 22 degrees and a minimum of 16. Looking back home to Melbourne now, expect westerly to southwesterly winds this evening, shifting more southerly later on, before easing off later tonight. Saturday, a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 20. Sunday, partly cloudy and possible showers later in the evening with a low of 14 and a high of 29. Monday, a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 21. Tuesday, a low of 12 and a maximum of 23. Wednesday, a 90% chance of rain with a low of 13 degrees and a high of 20. And Thursday, a low of 10 and a maximum of 16 there. That's all for the weather this evening. Now back to Will and Sandra in the studio.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you for joining us on Newsline. I'm Will Pasqua.
And I'm Sandra Thompson. Thank you and have a good night, Melbourne.